If Whirlwind has 10,000 fans, I'll be there. If Whirlwind has 100 fans, I'll be there. If Whirlwind has 1 fan, I am that fan. If Whirlwind has no fans, I do not exist. Alright? They got 1 shot! Whirlwind is bad, by the way, guys. Whirlwind can kill bosses this season. Don't worry about it. What's up, everyone? It's me, Ali, and today I'm bringing you my updated build guide for Whirlwind Lucky Hit for the Season 9 Scenes of the Roadrun. Before you go any further, if you do want the pure Whirlwind guide, I do have the build on the variant section on the link down below. So if you do want to play pure Whirlwind, there's a build there for you, but this one is at the very least 10 bits better. So that's the one I'm going to be covering, and it's the one I'm playing. The build currently has been able to clear 100, I'm currently pushing for 102, and potentially 105 if I can figure out a bit on the clear. Because surprisingly on this build, on the 100 I did, if you want to watch it, I'll have a link down below, I cleared the pit in like 10 to 11 minutes, and I took less than 2 minutes to kill the boss on a Whirlwind build. That's mostly because on the build it's not only a Whirlwind proccing lucky hits, right? It's Whirlwind, it's Call of the Ancient, surprisingly it does have lucky hit. It's also the Rune, the one that spawns the wolves. The wolves also proc lucky hit, and on top of it all, your seasonal power also procs lucky hit. Just a bunch of stuff proccing lucky hit and doing a bunch of damage. The build clears really well. Again, it has really good bossing. It does need to scale a bit, but when it comes to Belial, it just kills it in a couple of seconds like lunging. So when it comes to raw damage, it kind of has the same as lunging, but lunging has a lot better clear, so it's not quite there. It's still quite strong. Again, I was able to clear 100. Even if you pick it up and only have a couple of masterworks, you'll be able to clear 90, maybe even 95, and you'll be able to speed farm 75 for sure. But yeah, let's actually get into how the build works, shall we? Now, when it comes to the damage on this build, it's actually going to be coming from lucky hits. We're going to be masterworking a lot of lucky hits, like for example this one on the Ugly Bastard. It's a big lucky hit proc, and we're also going to have it on the two-handed mace and the one-handed mace. Now, some of you might be asking, why am I not running Azurath? You have a lot of Stork and Rogue builds, I believe, running Azurath and having a lot of success on it. One of the biggest reasons is because we can't run it together with Ugly Bastard. For those that don't know, everything on Ugly Bastard for this build is working. The damage bonus, right, is working. That's what we care about in the proc. But the damage conversion from running Wrath of Berserker does not work. Which means even if we wanted to run Wrath of Berserker, which we don't, I'll cover in a second why on the skills, it still would not work with Azurath regardless. And I've tried making an Azurath Perdition version, but it's much weaker. Like, the wallop you get from the mace and all the extra stats are really good, so it is what it is. Let's actually cover what we are running on the build. When it comes to mythics, the only two mythics we're going to be running is Starless, ideally J crit chance, but you can also have a bit of J on the attack speed, and then you just masterwork one or the other. It doesn't really matter too much, you can kind of make it work. And when it comes to the Grandfather, we actually want the GA on the damage. Like you can see there, you masterwork that damage, it increases your damage a lot. Now, when it comes to the mythics, of course, Ugly Bastard, we want that fire proc. That's gonna be big damage for us, alright? We're gonna also be running Rage of Argath. This fixes cooldowns for both the ultimate and the shout. You can reset this constantly on the AoE specifically. It just makes clearing that much better. Of course, Fist of Fate. This, you just masterwork that lucky hit. You'll be like hitting 24/7. Now, this one will be harder for you to get the 4GA like I have. The most important stat is the lucky hit chance. And potentially getting a good attack speed roll and crit chance will be good. You don't need the MGA. You can make that up elsewhere on the build. Right now, I don't even have the Starless, like you can see, nor the Rage of Ragath masterwork on the crit chance. But if you go here to our stats, I'm already crit capped, I believe. right? I'm already above crit cap. You don't need that much crit, so you don't need a duration crit chance. You'll just have to masterwork a bit more on the Rage of Argath and the Ring of the Starless. And the attack speed you can kind of get away with a bit less. But the more attack speed you can get into the build, the more damage you'll do, because, for those that don't know, I should have covered this earlier, Lucky Hit not only scales with attack speed by you proccing it more often, right, with your skill, but it also scales the damage like a multiplier for some odd reason. That's the reason why it's so strong right now, and the reason we are using it. Now, when it comes to our pants, I was playing with T-Bolts earlier on, but because of an update I'm gonna cover on the gems in a second, right? The Oradric gems got updated a bit. We can actually run Ariad's Bearing. Ariad's Bearings will solve the cooldown on Call of the Ancients. You might want one of the hits on the cooldown. The other one will either go on resist if you don't have a 2GA resist and Call of the Ancients cooldown, right? Or if you do have a 2GA resist and Call of the Ancients cooldown, you just go for max life like I have here. Either or, you'll be fine, just make sure to fix the resists. As you'll see, if we go here to our stats, a bit lower, I'm not using incense and I'm almost resist cap and armor cap without instances. So this will be much easier to cap resists than lunging, because we are running Ariad's Bearings, which helps a lot. The other one, the last unique we're gonna be using, of course, Ramaladni's Magnum Opus. This, for those that don't know, this applies to the lucky hits coming from both Ugly Bastard and the procs from the two Mesas, right? It applies to it, so it's really good for scaling our damage. Because one of the things we do struggle here, and we're gonna see in a second that I'm really running out of aspects to run on the build, is that there's not a lot of aspects that increase your damage globally. Ramaladnis does that really well. You'll be able to get, what, 150 multiplier from this. It's really good. It has great stats as well, right? And you're gonna be masterworking, of course, the resource. When it comes to the rest of the gear, let's actually talk about the maces. This is the most important one, right? You're gonna want that fire proc. You want to fish for a max roll, and you specifically need fire damage. That's because we are not converting the damage with Wrath of Berserker, so they need to be fire damage to benefit from the 60% damage multi in the Ugly Bastard, right? Just get those, either the second or the first proc. It might be a bit expensive for you to roll it on the 200 mace, but 100 mace should be quite easy for you to get. People don't really care about them right now for any other builds, so it's going to be really easy for you. When it comes to the aspect of the Earthquake, this will be procced by our Ancients, right? Our Ancients can proc Earthquakes. That's one of the good things about Ariad's Bearing over T-Bolts, is that you don't have to worry about Earthquakes. Because we really struggle, we don't have space on our runes. I'm going to cover the runes in a second. We don't have space on our runes to actually run it, so this will be really great. The additive damage you're going to be having, damage while berserking, close damage, fire damage, anything works, right? Anything like that works. Crit damage works if you're crit capped. Vulnerability works as well, because with Fist of Fate you're gonna be vulnerable every time, applying vulnerable everywhere. I just go with damage while berserking, because if I fail damage while berserking, I can also get damage while Warcry is up, and you should have 100% uptime on Warcry. Once you get a good enough Rage of Argath and enough lucky hit into the build, it should not be a problem. The other aspect, of course, is gonna be element. This is what I was talking about. This is not ideal, but is the only aspect you can run that applies to the damage, right? That we're using lucky hit, and it's global. It's not ideal. I was really fighting to not run this aspect, but there's just not a better choice, sadly. When it comes to the other offensive aspects we're gonna be running, I do have the Dust Devils aspect here. We're running Whirlwind. Whirlwind itself will generate Dust Devils, making everything else on our build do 25% more damage. And even if you're not Whirlwinding too often for some odd reason, Ariad's Bearings, the Ancients, will also do the Dust Devils for any enemy that's not close by, right? When it comes to the things here, you have to see what you need here, either J attack speed or J strength. And the masterwork, if you have enough attack speed, I'm fairly certain strength is more damage. If you don't have enough attack speed, maybe masterwork the attack speed a bit. And you can also go for additive damage. If you're lacking resist, like if you're really early on the build and you're lacking resist, you can put resist here instead of additive damage. You don't lose too much damage. But hey, if you don't need resist, might as well get a bit of that extra damage. Of course, if you really have a really shitty Fist of Fate, you can also run crit strike chance here if you need to. It's really flexible, that last spot on the ring. When it comes to the tempers, of course, damage while berserking, like I said, close damage, fire damage, anything works as long as you have good uptime on it. And really important here, you don't need this, but this will make the build feel much better to play. Chance to restore primary resource on lucky hit. Now, if you're playing in a group, if you're not playing in pit and stuff like that, the way you get the initial fury here without this would be to get hit. And then you start whirlwinding after a bit and you'll have more than enough fury. But that feels a bit wonky to play. If you're playing in a group, this thing will also help you, because all the lucky hits you're proccing to do damage will give you resource, right? A couple of them at the very least. So this one, it's kind of important for you to actually not have any problems on Fury. If you still have problems with Fury, just roll, Fury on kill on the mace, and you're gonna be fine. You shouldn't need to. When it comes to our amulet, though, this one, it's kind of the basic amulet you'll have on any build. Strength GA, counter-offensive and pit fighter. You masterwork the counter-offensive, of course. It's just a really basic amulet, nothing to cover here. You're gonna be running Vehement the Brawler here. You'll have 100% uptime on your Ancients, that's kind of the core of the build. And the Ancients, I'll cover a second, they give you a lot of stuff, not only proccing lucky hits. It's just a free aspect for us, and it's one of the few good aspects that we have, sadly, like general aspects, right? So we're gonna be running on the amulet to make the most use out of it. When it comes to the Tempers column of the Ancient cooldown, of course, to cap the last bit we're missing from this, if you get a good roll on this one, like a 32.6, you might not even need to masterwork this GA. But, if you don't, just masterwork it and you'll be fine. You probably don't need much masterworks elsewhere. And when it comes to the additive damage, like I said, damage all berserking, close damage, vuln, crit, whatever, fire damage works as well. Whatever you want to put there, whatever you feel like it's easier for you to hit, go with that, you'll be fine. Alternatively, I believe technically you can run physical damage as well, because it gets converted by the seasonal mechanic, but I'm not 100% sure how it works. So, test it at your own whatever, right? If you want to test it, go ahead, it might work. When it comes lastly to our boots, we're gonna be running the Relentless Berserker here. There's not a lot of good ways for you to proc Berserking on the build. We're gonna be proccing it with Warcry, and then we're gonna be keeping it up with Relentless Berserker. On AoE, you kinda don't need this is mostly for bossing. And when it comes to the utility aspects, there's nothing good anyway. We don't really need the movement speed. We don't really need the pull from the Whirlwind, because especially in AoE, we're gonna be using a lot of the Call of the Ancients, a lot of Rupture, and we'll just not be proccing the Whirlwind thing super often, because if you don't know, it's basically every 3 seconds there's a frame that if you're Whirlwinding, you'll pull enemies in. If you're not Whirlwinding during that frame, good luck, wait another 3 seconds, right? So it's not really consistent, especially on AoE, unless you're constantly Whirlwinding. So, since we do need to cancel Whirlwind to cast Call of the Ancients, and Rupture, it doesn't work out well, and we'll be grouping with the runes, right? When it comes to the stats here, Warcry, we're gonna be masterworking, and Strength is also good to have. And one thing I do want to point out here, besides the temper of movement speed, you do want Thorns on the boots. This, we don't really have any utility here that's really good, and what this will do is that it will allow you to proc the Revenge rune without having to waste one passive on the tree. The Revenge rune will increase your damage slightly, especially on AoE. It's not that big of a deal, but we are using Revenge rune for other reasons. Lastly, before you go anywhere else, of course, you're gonna be running rubies on the gear. We're gonna be running the emeralds on the weapons for the crit damage. And when it comes to our runes, this is kind of important, so, make sure to listen out. Ahu said, the reason we run Ahuse is because the wolves themselves can proc the lucky hit on this. So as long as you're hitting something that's below 75%, you'll have 100% uptime on like 10 wolves. all of them will be proccing like a hit for you. This is why our single target becomes a lot better, because this wolf will also proc like a hit for us. This is really big damage. The other one we're running Nagu Cry. This will make sure the Vortex will pull every 5 seconds. He'll be pulling with Vortex, and it will be an empowered Vortex. We'll be pulling a bigger range, right? It's really good to pull, like you see, 100% increased size on the pull. It's really big. That's the reason I'm running Vortex. I'm also considering running some other pull on the seasonal powers, but that's something we'll cover in a second. And of course, lastly, before you go anywhere, you do want to be running all your skills, be it Whirlwind and Rupture. You want to be running it on the dual wield setup, right? It's really important that you do so. If you have Whirlwind with the dual wield setup and Rupture or one of the others, it's gonna break a lot of things on the build. So trust me on this one, make sure to have all of your skills onto dual wield, alright? When it comes to our seasonal powers, we're gonna be running, of course, Saddle from Below. This one just gives you a good amount of strength and life. It grants you unhindered, which means you don't get the 25% movement speed debuff on Whirlwind, which is really great. And you also spawn Jewel Guardians. These ones are mostly only important on Pit, but if you don't know, every 2 seconds from entering an instance, you'll spawn the Jewel Guardians, which will contribute towards the Pit completion if you do kill them. And for example, if you go to the second floor on, let's say, 10 minutes and 30, the next spawn of the Jewel Guardians will be at 8 minutes 30, from 2 minutes from entering an instance, right? The other run we're gonna be running, and this one I need to explain why. Myriad Stone got changed on the last patch. That's kind of why I waited on making this updated build guide, because it now is cap 2, which means I was able to take away one of the aspects that we were using accelerating. We don't need to use it anymore. We can just use this stone, and it allowed us to put in the Ariat's Bearing and made the build feel a lot better to play, which is great. You just run this, you put the skill on the ultimate, right, and then you just easily proc this for the easy 30% attack speed on the build. Lastly, Scornful Light. All our damage will be elemental from the fire procs. You just deal more damage with this, 20% easy damage, right? Doesn't need to be explained. When it comes to our Roderick spells, now this one is a bit complicated. I'm still trying to figure this out. One thing that's always going to be the case, Infusion is all going to be the fire one. You're converting some of your physical nodes on the Paragon board to fire. You know, it's a bit of additive damage, and it also destroys the wallers, which is great. Now, you always want to run the Fracturing Core to disable the enemies, right? This is really important. Bloody Charm, I believe we'll always be using. Maybe not, maybe we will. We do a lot of damage when enemies are low anyway, so I'll have to consider if I have something that might be needed here. I'm still trying to figure this out. When it comes to the last one, I'm running Potent Alloy just so I don't have to worry too much about shielding guys appearing on the pit, right? It just makes, for example, skeletons and spiders quite a nice mob type to get. But you can take this out. You can put this here to increase the lucky hit chance of your skill, right? So we can actually like hit better. This increases our damage a lot as well. There are some choices here. You could potentially run movement speed if you want to. That's not the movement speed one. This one is the movement speed. There's some choices here. This last one is not set in stone yet. And when it comes to the catalyst skill, I'm a bit split here, alright? Currently I'm running Astral Pillar. It feels really good. Some people prefer Disintegrate. I'm not sure if the Disintegrate is as great. As you can see, it has less lucky hit. And it's a damage over time, so the lucky hit is a bit weird. You can use it potentially. I'm not too strict between these two. It's up to you. One thing I'm considering running is Celestial Surge because it has a pull. And if you don't know, on Celestial Surge, if you run... where is it? There's the Frigid Heart. A second rune, a second Celestial Oracular rune will spawn. Which means after 5 seconds, you will pull enemies again with a Celestial Surge. So you get 2 pulls. Every 1.2 seconds, you'll get 2 pulls. One on the proc and one 5 seconds after. I'm considering running this, taking a bit of a hit on the damage to make grouping a lot better. Might potentially be really great, we'll have to see. Again, this one, look out for the written build guide, I might make some updates there. But for now, we'll stick with this one, because I think it just works better. Alright, doing over our skills. First of all, weapon expertise. The technique is always going to be, two-handed axe. You almost don't have to cover this anymore, it's always that one. Now, when it comes to the skill itself, we're going to be putting 2 points on lunging. We're not running lunging, we just have to put 2 points there. We're going to be putting 1 point on Whirlwind. We have 3 here from the Ring of the Starless. And you're going to go down to the Furious Whirlwind to get the bleed so you can proc Rage of Argath, right? Then we're taking Overpath Passive, which will be proc by the Rupture down here. And we'll also be taking Tempered Fury. This is a good amount of damage if you're running Ramaladness. When it comes to the defensive will, we're going to be running Challenging Shout with 1 point on the maximum life. Anything else doesn't matter. Growling Cry gives you Unstoppable and gives you 45, really good. Points here for the life, points here for some DR, right? When it comes to the brawling skills, we're only taking the Warcry, getting it here for the Berserking, and additional damage for AoE is really good. And if you have bosses with ads, really helps. And we're gonna be taking all the nodes related to shouts. For the cooldown, some heal, some DR, really good. Then we're gonna be taking Rest Resistance, we always Berserking, right? The other skill we're gonna be running on the build before the ultimate, Rupture. Rupture does a couple of things for us on the build, alright? It procs Overpower for some multipliers. It also procs a bunch of Bleed AoE, which resets our on AoE packs, constantly resets our abilities, Rage of Argath, which is really good to constantly have Ancients out to get to the cap of 12 or 18, I can't remember right now. And it also, with the last passive here, grants you 40% attack speed for the cap too, which is really good. The passives, you're going to be taking all the passives here for some damage. This one, if you don't need a crit, you might be able to take some points away here, up to you. And then, of course, counteroffensive. On the last will, we're going to be running Call of the Ancients. Now, Call of the Ancients is really good because on the second passive here, you get 20% attack speed buff, that's cap 2. You get 30% increased damage, really great. And like I said earlier, your Ancients themselves can proc lucky hits. We don't have the lucky hits here. I'm assuming that the lucky hits are the skills that are using, so Upheaval, Leap, and whatever basic skill he uses. And then, of course, the Upheaval. I'm not 100% sure if that's true or not. They have lucky hit, but we don't actually know what the value is. It works, it does more damage. I had to field test this, right? It does more damage, so, it is what it is. And you can also take Duelist to get some attack speed here if you need to. Lastly, Walled Up because we are running a 100 mace with a Ramaladness. When it comes to key passive, of course, as always, Unconstrained. It's just the way it is. It is quite good, and it's quite easy for you to have. Alright, the game kinda kicked me out while I was swapping to the Paragon, so we have a bit more light now. Regardless, on the Paragon board, this is quite simple. This is quite similar to the lunging build, simply because we are scaling Fury, right? You're scaling Fury, Max Fury for the Ramaladness, so it is what it is. We're going, of course, here. We're gonna be taking Ambidextrous on the first board. That's simple. We're gonna be taking Wrath on the secondary board. It's just the best active glyph we have. Then we're gonna be taking Challenger. This is taking on any build, really great damage, especially against elite and bosses. And the other one over here is gonna be Marshall. Marshall is really important on this build. It really allows you to reset your Call of the Ancients on bosses, to have a big uptime on it on bosses. And lastly, we're gonna be taking Revenge. This is the reason we take Thorns on the boots to increase our damage a bit. But the reason we're actually running this is because it makes our Maximum Fury over here much better. And it does give us some additional damage over here, which is great as well. When it comes to the actual, the Paragon Legendaries, we're gonna be running the most important one, Blood Rage. This one was changed, you no longer need to have Berserking damage. So you just take this, and as long as you are Berserking, you have the 45 increased damage. Quite easy like that. Decimator over here, we're just taking it for the increased damage wall against vulnerable enemies. The rest doesn't really matter because you don't really do any damage with overpower. Sadly, lucky hits, as far as I know, cannot overpower. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's correct. Again, there's a lot of lucky hit things that they are weird, okay? And the last one we're gonna be taking is Weapon Master. For those that don't know, you don't need to weapon swap. The only thing weapon swap gives us is the increase the 80% maximum fury regeneration, which we don't need. You just take this for the 30% increased damage against injured and healthy enemies. And, you know, lastly, I will cover this one, Warbringer. I'm not taking it, I've removed it from the written guide, because you just don't need this. You don't spend that much fury anyway, and the Rallying Cry will just do the job for you, alright? You don't really need it at all. If you want to actually get some good Paragon boards, I'll have the written guide down below. If you actually go to the variant section, you actually have a breakdown every 15 to 20 Paragon levels, so you can kind of know where to go from every single section, so you're never lost on the path, right? Because it can be a bit confusing. Consumable wise, it's quite simple. We're gonna be running Elixir of Advantage. This will give us the attack speed we need to hit the last attack speed breakpoint on the build, and a good amount of additional lucky hit, because why the hell not, right? We do get the good advantage out of that. When it comes to the first stat one, you can either run the Spiral Morning. I do advise running this helps a bit with the resists, but you can also run the Strength one. It doesn't really matter on this build, you have more than enough alt stats to cover every necessary thing on the Paragon. The other one, Life, Radamin Buzz, really good. Early on, if you're missing armor, you shouldn't, but if you're missing armor on the Ancestral version or something like that, run the armor one for a bit, but ideally down the line you go for the life one. And lastly, as always, Soothing Spices. Maximum resists, a bunch of resists as well, and a good amount of armor just to cap you off if need be. Alright, Mercenaries, our boy, right here. Right here, I still believe it's better than Subo. It's really nice defensively anyway, it gives you resist, so you don't have to worry about too much on the gear. We could fix the resist without right here, but this just makes gearing much better for you. It also gives you almost as good of damage as Subo does, and it allows you to face tank a lot more stuff, which is great for pet. The other one, we're gonna be running Aldequin. I have this on Rupture because I feel it's the skill I'm able to use more often, but you can put this on Call of the Ancients or the Shelves or even Whirlwind itself. Whatever you feel like you use more often on the build, you click. Whirlwind is the ability you use more often because you're spinning, but you don't click it, right? You just click it once. So, you know, potentially Rupture, I think, is the one we wanna use anyway. And of course, you're gonna have it with Fields of Languish. This is just a good DR for you to proc every now and again. That's why I kind of want an ability that's constantly being used. So you have this almost 100% uptime when it is up, right? It lasts for 6 seconds. So if you can proc it every now and again, it will make your star ability that much better. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for the build guide. If you do have some questions about the build or something I didn't quite cover on the video, make sure to leave a comment down below, I always check them out, or the Discord if you prefer. Make sure to also keep an eye out on the written guide. I might change a bit, especially when it comes to the build itself will not change, but when it comes to the seasonal power, there might be some changes there to, you know, increase the grouping. I'm still testing that out and lucky hit stuff there. As always, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more updates on the build. I should still be pushing a bit. I'll try to get the 105. 1 or 2 will almost for sure be achievable. 105 potentially. But yeah, keep an eye out on the channel. And, you know, if you want to see me live, either here on the on the Twitch, if you're not playing Diablo, I might just stream on the Twitch side. So yeah, see you guys over there maybe. And thanks for watching. See you next time for more Diablo 4 content. And, you know, some other RPGs as well, I suppose.